if the perfect world is push button get mortgage or like a super simplified experience, is that what the consumer wants? Is that what they're ready for? If we were to spend all of our time trying to figure out a way to tie all of these technology pieces together for the broker, the lender, the insurer, the closer, right, the marketing, like all the way through the funnel, like let's just say we spent the next 2 years in a lab, picked our head up, we're like, hey, we just created the whole one-stop shop. All you have to do is click this button. You've got your mortgage. Here you go, Canadian consumer, go get your mortgage. Is that what the world wants? Or is that something that us as, fintech technologists, et cetera, that we idealize on?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's actually a great question. I actually don't think it's necessarily what clients want. I think that they definitely want it to be easier, less stressful, faster. They want those things, but I think they often really like and often need and want to have the trusted advice of an advisor. But I think that you could have effectively push button get mortgage, but with an advisor kind of holding your hand while you're doing it type thing. So, if I was to go deeper onto the analogy, the difference between self-driving and just driving a Model S, like the Model S experience is great. Do I want sort of self-driving all the way from here on my road trip? That would be awesome. It's not necessarily necessary, but certainly versions of it along the way. And so I think that there's the consumer side of it, but then there's also the originator side of it, which is to say that it costs a lot of money, really, if you think about operating all 8 of those business models. And so even if the client still has the benefit of having their handheld and having great advice, the more that we can effectively make the rest of that supply chain efficient, the more effectively we can lower the cost and ultimately pass that advantage on to the consumer, really refocus our attention on the things that really matter, which is building rapport, providing quality advice, and not so much on shuffling documents and emails back and forth and moving closing dates and all that kind of jazz that people don't necessarily like.
Yeah, I think as you say that, keep going down this analogy hole as you and I tend to do, but it's actually even more akin to a Tesla in that way when you bring up the point of self-driving, which is to say that people, when they think about self-driving vehicles, often have a sense of fear associated with that. Now, you can give them all the data in the world to suggest that they're actually much safer and have a lower crash rate of self-driving vehicles and compared to humans driving themselves. But like people think about that and they're like, well, at least I want that piece of control. And when you think about a mortgage, the fear in a fully automated experience where the person doesn't speak to an advisor, they go out, they get their mortgage on their own, and it's basically push button, get mortgage. I think everyone's fear is that they will have made a mistake. And even in that small case where you think that you've given them all the information up front, you've given them all the disclosures, $600,000, $700,000 debt is a massive thing to sign your name on the dotted line on. And not having that crystal clear clarity and that feeling of self-control and that feeling of having an advisor, all that around the mortgage experience. I think what you're saying is that humans are going to be a part of this experience for many years to come.
Very much so. I mean, I have second thoughts on a $60 Amazon cart, let alone a $600,000 mortgage checkout.
Yeah. Yeah. That buy now button is scary, right? You got to make sure.